Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TV Enthusiast discussion of Game of Thrones Season 5. Today we are going to be discussing Episode 7, The Gift. I speculated last week that the gift might imply is there's a part of a landmass called the Gift, and, well, that's actually likely where Stannis was in this episode. It had a kind of different meaning, the Gift, this time. But we'll get to that. So joining me today is Will Rorig. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Tyson?
I am Thronetastic.
Thronetastic. That's a new one.
Have to set a low bar at the beginning with a bad pun. So
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I am the host for tonight. My name is Tyson. I am the editor-in-chief of TV Enthusiast. You can check out our site at tventhusiast.com, or you can't check out our site because it's been down for the last couple days. But you can check the empty space of our once and future site by going to tventhusiast.com. That is our site. That's where you can get our articles, our podcast, everything else. If you're watching this on YouTube, you have access to the podcast as well as these videos, but not our other articles and content. So hopefully the site will be back up soon. I just, like right before, I had actually had you check over it just before I posted it, that article about the Sansa's rape in Game of Thrones, and kind of, my position being that nothing is sacred in fiction, and that it was kind of necessary for, based on character motivations and, being true to the characters that you put in those situations. But probably a couple hours after posting that, the site went down, and has been down since. So
all your fault.
Yeah, it's my fault. I don't think anybody had even read it yet. I don't think there were any actual read links before it was down. But hopefully it will be back up in the next day or so. So if you're watching this on the site, then it's already behind us.
Oh yeah.
On to the episode. So this week, if I had to sum up this episode in 1 week, I would say the other shoe dropped.
Yep, the other shoe finally dropped. Wow, it was interesting. You were right. You were totally right about Cersei's machinations totally backfiring on her, and they did spectacularly.
Yeah, it was. She was playing with fire. She got burnt. The other shoe dropped. It was only a matter of time. You knew, and that kept getting enforced too. I mean, when the Queen of Thorns was visiting with the High Sparrow, and he was like, "It must be odd for you to meet somebody who can't be bought or can't, that has no ulterior motive,
has no hidden agenda."
Yeah.
His agenda is right out in the open for everybody to see. And so, yeah.
So we knew it was going to happen. It was just a matter of when. So.
And it's like, well, this is why you don't get in bed with crazy religious people.
An argument against cults right there.
Against cults. Unless you're willing to be as crazy and religious as they are, which Cersei was not.
Yeah. So let's talk about kind of other events in the episode, and then maybe get back to a little bit about the Faith Militant and the High Sparrow, since that's how the episode ended. Let's start. I'm looking at the Wikipedia entry for the episode, so let's just kind of go in the order that it has there.
We had a little bit more of Dorne in this episode, not a lot. There was the scene with Jaime and Jaime and his daughter. Yeah.
And we got to see Bronn with the Sand Snakes, which finally was like, I really have not been happy with the portrayal of the Sand Snakes so far. That scene I thought was really good. I thought the way she was kind of taunting him and being kind of playful about it,
Yeah.
getting him to call her like the most beautiful woman in the world, and then he's like throws him the antidote and says, "I think you're fairly attractive too," or something. I think as much as that's like, you'd think like, oh God, Braun's got to hate her after that. It's like, I'd think, knowing Braun's personality, he's probably completely in love with her now.
Yeah, right. He probably is. It's clear she likes him too.
Yeah, so it was kind of a cool little pairing scene, I guess.
Yeah, that was cool. Although I did have, because they did address the fact that he got stabbed and that they used poison, and so there was a moment where I thought, there was that brief moment there where I thought Braun was going to die, that he was done for. But then she gave him the antidote, and I was like, oh, because Braun is just too cool to die.
Yeah. That they have some kind of a weird kind of pairing with them, and kind of the way they're doing this, they had kind of set it up like it was just going to be this thing where the Sand Snakes wanted to kill Marcella, and they were trying to rescue her, and it was just going to be this kind of quick clash, and that was it. It was kind of a boring story with that, the way it was being handled. But yeah, I think now it's kind of become more interesting, because now it's like that's been resolved, like Braun possibly being poisoned and dying, that's resolved. The Sand Snake plot, that's resolved. They've all been caught, Jamie trying to rescue her, that's been, put to an end. All of that's been put to an end in kind of a non-violent way. And it's kind of leading way to more of like the idea of kind of more of a social plot or kind of plan coming out of this now, which I find way more interesting than what they were setting up before.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm interested in where the Jamie plot's going to go from here. Obviously, if he returns home, he's going to find his sister has been kidnapped by these fanatics. I'm wondering if Jamie's going to get involved with that plot line now.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it being the case. God, I just wish that Jamie didn't give a shit about her, and
I know, right?
And this wasn't about this, because man, it's like so many things. I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool if they, the Sand Snakes and Braun and everybody, they all got involved in this kind of plot that against the Lannisters, and I'm like, wait, but that's Jamie's a Lannister, so that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, exactly. Oh my word! We also got, like, of course, you mentioned the bit with Olenna talking to the High Sparrow, trying to get her daughter and trying to get her daughter freed from the other guy there.
Yeah, we got to see a little bit more of that kind of the philosophy of this season, with him saying, you are the few, we are the many,
Yeah, very ominous.
Occupy Westeros.
Occupy Westeros. Yeah, pretty much. You are the few, we are the many. We also had a scene with Olenna and Littlefinger where it was confirmed that she played a role in Joffrey's death.
Yeah. So we knew it before, but yeah, it was laid out very clearly now.
I don't think it was confirmed before. Like, you had your suspicion.
She talked to Marjorie and said, "You didn't think I was going to let you marry that vile person or whatever, did you?"
So it was implied.
Yeah. So this time it was just flat out laid out, right out in the open.
Yeah, right out in the open.
And the Westeros NSA was recording the call.
Really. So it's still unclear to me what game Littlefinger is playing, because I'm still not clear what he's doing or what his aim is here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His position's been kind of weird, because through the whole series, we've been kind of led to believe that the one thing we know for sure about Littlefinger is that he loves Catelyn Stark.
Right.
And everything else was like, who knows if it's a lie within a lie or whatever. But like his direct machinations basically were the cause of her undoing.
Right.
And then it's like, well, maybe he feels regret about that, and maybe now he's going to transfer those feelings on to Sansa, and that seemed to be the truth. Well, now he's kind of put her into a really horrible situation, and you start to get to this point where you're like, does he care about any of it anymore? Is he just like totally only in it in his own game right now?
Right. That's what I'm thinking. He's like totally in it for himself.
Mm-hmm. And that makes his position kind of interesting. We know that it seems like Sansa's story now after last week's episode. What was interesting is I think there were a lot of people that were kind of militantly against last week's episode and the way it ended. Were one of the reasons they're bringing up was that like they're using her rape as a means to have Theon kind of break out of his current position, But they kind of dispelled that in this episode by having, Sansa go to Theon asking for help, telling us a way that he can get her help, and then him, marching off, and you're like, oh, where's he going to go? Oh, it's right to Bolton, right to Ramsay. Tells her the old lady that's supposed to help her with the plan or whatever, dead, skinned alive, it's like flayed, as the banner of the Boltons is. And I think that what they're trying to set up now, and it's something I theorized in the article that I wrote, is that they're trying to show that the reason they were showing Theon and stuff so much isn't to show like, oh, now he's going to save her, so much as it is she's stronger than him. Like he lost his identity, he lost everything about himself. He's just this like fool now that's kind of doing whatever, lapdog to Ramsay. And she's stronger than that she's going to survive this.
He's got, that's what I believe. And we got Brienne. Brienne is actually waiting for the candle.
Did you have a moment where you thought Brienne was going to be like they killed her off screen? And
oh, that would be BS. That would be BS.
I had this moment of fear where I thought that was the case, though. When they had showed Brienne, they showed the idea of the candle. They had, Theon telling Ramsay, and then they had, Sansa seeing somebody flayed out there. I'm like, oh shit, they're gonna have killed Brienne off screen. Like they actually set the candle, lured her out, killed her and stuff,
Oh, that would have been total BS.
I'm glad that's not what happened.
I'm glad that's not what happened either. Whoa.
But I had that moment of fear where I felt it. I was like, oh god,
We also had We also had like a scene. We had the funeral for one of the last living Targaryens.
Yeah, the last of two, as far as we know now. So,
Aemon Targaryen, who was actually Aegon's older brother.
It was the Mad King's older brother, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, or no, actually, I think it was the Mad King's uncle.
No, I believe he referred to him as his brother.
Huh.
In the episode.
I think it might have been because they had a point where they had said that he let his brother become king in his place. He was supposed to be king, and he chose not to, and let his brother become king. I'm wondering if that was the Mad King that was his brother, or if it was the Mad King's father, and then that went down, because I think he might be older. I'm not sure, because he's really old. I mean, he was very old.
He is really old. I don't know, because he said he called his brother Aegi.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. There are two Targaryens left that we know of for sure. Of course, I have my theory about, Jon Snow. It's a popular internet theory as well that he is one as well, but not in name. But as far as we know for sure, there were two. Now there's one.
Now there's one. Yeah.
And now his watch has ended.
And then we got the scene where Gilly was attacked. And I was like, and the whole time I was like, oh no, don't rape Gilly. We can't have this controversy again 2 episodes in a row.
Yeah.
This would be really bad, people. Don't do that.
I think they handled that in an interesting way because one of the defenses about the rape actually happening in the last episode was that Game of Thrones kind of pushes against tropes, against the idea that you'll be saved at the last minute kind of thing, you know?
Right.
And it's kind of interesting in this case, she was saved by Sam. Well, sort of, because Sam's not really strong enough to save her, you know? Like,
right.
He showed up, he defended her, he was basically beaten down. Still standing up, you know, doing the right thing, but he's not actually effective in that role. What ended up saving her, of course, was Ghost.
The Ghost. I was so happy to see him. I was like, yes! Ghost.
Yeah, Ghost loves Sam, so this is like anybody he trusts besides John, it's Sam, so it was cool seeing that moment. It's kind of like having John have his back, even though John's not there.
Right, exactly. Which I thought was like really cool. And they had the one guy there, the head ranger now. He told to Samuel. He said something like you're losing your friends here or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Aemon gone.
Aemon gone and Jon Snow taking off too. And that was like really ominous, you know, so you knew something was gonna happen.
So yeah, it was cool to see Ghost come for the rescue there.
Yes, definitely. Really cool. Also cool that Samuel gave Jon Snow the dragon glass.
Oh yeah.
So Jon Snow could protect himself if he came across any White Walkers.
I'm hoping that means he will.
That's why I'm hoping that means we will. I hope we're getting some White Walker action.
Yeah, I'm hoping that piece of dragon's glass was a Chekhov's gun, as they call it, which means if anybody's unfamiliar with that term, it means if you see a loaded gun sitting on a table on a TV show, it's going to be used. It's just a matter of when, you know?
Yep, exactly.
So I'm hoping that that's the case with this, that this piece of dragon's glass is Jon Snow's Chekhov's gun. Let's see, what else happened here?
Stannis.
Across the narrow... Oh, Stannis, okay, yeah.
Stannis.
First.
Stannis was confronted with a very difficult proposition where the Red Woman came to him and suggested he sacrifice his own daughter to ensure his victory when he goes up against the Boltons, Roose Bolton in Winterfell, because, you know, they're in a very precarious spot. There's this huge storm, they're running out of supplies, their horses are dying, the sellswords are fleeing, so it's not looking good for his chances.
Yeah, I wonder kind of what's the point of that, because the sacrifice of like King's blood was never to execute somebody or to, like, you know, kill somebody. It was like with Stannis, she had sex with him. With what's his name? With Robert's bastard, that
they use leeches.
Yeah, they used leeches, and she had sex with him.
And she had sex
with his daughter, you know, it's like she's not going to have sex with her, hopefully.
Obviously.
Hopefully that's not going to go down that route. But sacrifice, you'd think it would be obtaining some of her blood, which,
right, well,
you know...
He says, you know, can't we just use leeches? And she says, no, that won't work.
Yeah.
You know what will work. So, you know, and he's just like, no, get out of here.
I'm hoping he doesn't turn his back on that, because I think his kind of relationship with his daughter is kind of the one thing that truly humanizes him.
I think so too. And it would turn him into a monster, and it'd make it like, okay, you know, it'd make you less likely to root for him to win. And I mean, because if he did that, then I'd be fully on Team Daenerys, you know. she'd be like the last person left to root for in this
I,
show.
I still don't want Stannis to win the Iron Throne. I think that there's too many issues in his way. I feel like I want Brienne to get her revenge.
Yeah.
And I want, and
Well,
that's
Brienne could get her revenge by killing the Red Woman. The Red Woman really executed Renly.
yeah.
I think the Red Woman needs to go. I think so. I think she's manipulating Stannis, and a lot of the things Stannis does is from her manipulations and trickery. But what's interesting is, she's totally blanking out now. Well, what's interesting is she told Stannis, she said, "You are the only person who can lead the living against the dead." That. And that's why she wants him to be king. So I'm wondering if that's because of a vision she saw, or...
Well, she said in this episode that she had seen her standing on top of the walls of Winterfell, and that hadn't happened yet, so that they were going to win the war for that reason. I think what's really interesting with the Red Woman being so confident and Stannis is the Lord of Light and stuff is that the Lord of Light seems to have lots of different horses,
Yeah.
In this. It's not just Stannis. I mean, he's got, the what do they call themselves? What's that band of with the one guy that can bring the other guy back to life constantly?
I totally forgot.
Can't remember what their name is, but they're like the group that's kind of against all these kings, basically.
Yeah, I remember what you're talking about.
And and against the war of these kings and everything like that. So you have that group. You have her with Stannis. Then we saw, across the Narrow Sea, Tyrion saw a priestess talking the merits of Daenerys.
Yeah.
So someone's back in Daenerys too. So it's all over the place.
Speaking of Daenerys, it finally happened. After all these episodes, we got
the gift.
The episode, the gift. The gift happened. Tyrion convinced the slaver to buy him, and why can't I think of his name now?
Jorah.
Yep, Jorah. Yeah, the slaver bought Jorah, and then Tyrion convinced him to buy him too, because he had to go with Jorah.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyrion really put on a spectacular display of beating the crap out of that guy.
While chained, yeah, with his chain.
Yeah. And Tyrion has never been much of a fighter in this series, so he's
had a few moments though. I mean, he did fight in the Battle of Blackwater, and there was that excellent. So he made a animated GIF of him hacking off a guy's leg, and then the guy falling over, and then he killed him. There were a few moments in the book. There's a few more as well. I know, in the first book, how in the first season he was knocked out right as he was going to go into battle.
Yep.
In the book, he actually fought in the battle and actually did pretty well.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, so he can actually fight to some extent. We've seen him do it. We saw him kind of defend himself with Catelyn, when Catelyn he took the shield and bashed in the guy's head with it, and so he's had a few little moments of battle competence. So
the slaver takes Jorah and Tyrion to the fighting pit in Meereen.
It's not Meereen. It's one of the smaller ones.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's like the qualifying rounds or whatever, and Daenerys is doing a tour of them.
So Daenerys shows up and she watches it and she's totally disgusted by it. She's like, "This is gross. I don't want anything to do with this."
So Jorah comes out in a helmet to kind of save her day by beating everybody without killing them.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the thing that was disgusting her. So she's all taken by it. He takes off his helmet.
And then she's like, "Oh God, it's you. get this guy out of my sight. I hate this guy.
She's this is my stalker. Get rid of him.
This is my stalker. Get rid of him. And then
and he's heartbroken. You can see it all over his face.
I know. He's like, oh man.
He tried so hard. And then Tyrion comes
Notice
out.
Me, senpai.
Tyrion comes out and kind of saves Jorah's respectability in that position by saying, you know, I'm his gift to you. I am Tyrion Lannister.
Yeah. And then it ends there, and we don't get any more of that. And I'm like, no.
It's not where the episode ended. I kind of thought that's where the episode would end.
I thought so too, but they ended on Cersei, which is actually a stronger ending because if it ended on, like, okay. But I'm glad that they went to Cersei and had that ending because that was like the big wow moment of the episode. That was
3 episodes left.
Yeah, 3 episodes left. It's building. I'm wondering what something big is going to happen. I know that one way or the other. I mean, I think it's gonna. I think the big event for this episode is going to happen with the High Sparrow storyline. I think the.
You think that's going to be the big episode 9 thing?
Yeah, I think they're going to do something completely outrageous, and it's going to probably spark a war in King's Landing.
Yeah. I could see that being the case. There's so many different things going on. I really kind of want to see what's going on in Dorne right now. Up until this point, like I was really excited to see Dorne, and then once we started seeing it, I've been bored.
Yeah, I know. I think the Dorne storyline at this point is done, unless something happens, like something out of left field comes out, which it could.
I kind of hope not, because I found it like finally interesting this episode.
Yeah. It was interesting. I was not expecting it to go that way.
And they got to have more for what's his name, the Prince of Dorne right now, Oberyn's older brother. They got to have more with him, you know, because he's had hardly any scenes.
It doesn't look like it though, because what's there to do? I mean, that woman who was conspiring, she's captured. The Sand Snakes are captured.
Yeah, but we know that he as well has issues with what happened to Oberyn, and he probably has his own kind of plans, or, you know, he doesn't strike me as somebody that's, you know, is just there to go like, no, we're not going to do that, and then that's it, you know. I feel like there's something to come out of this situation.
He doesn't want to rock the boat, you know. He sees like, okay, he's ruling over Dorne. Dorne is in peace, is in a state of peace. You know, everybody's happy. He doesn't want to ruin that peace out of some personal quest for vengeance, because, you know, he probably would if he wasn't king. You know.
Well, I think the difference is that the Sand Snakes wanted to start a war, and he wants revenge. I think that those are two different things. Like, his revenge doesn't need to start a war. Like, he's not going to hack up, you know, Marcella and send her back to Queen Cersei. He's more likely to, like, secretly execute Cersei or something, you know, and make it look like it was done by somebody else, you know. So I think he's going to go more the espionage route, you know.
He might. Who knows, like, what's going to happen there. Another big thing, I think the big plot lines, the big season ender plot lines are going to be with the High Sparrow, and also what's happening with Stannis and the Boltons. You know, Stannis's probably attack on Winterfell is probably going to be the big, probably episode 8. You're going to see, like, probably a big battle. Like they can't hold
that off too much longer. Stannis is just going to freeze to death in the snow.
I know, right? So I'm thinking episode 8, it's going to be the big battle where Stannis launches his attack on Winterfell. They always like to do one of those episodes now, like pretty much every season, where they have like a big battle and it's all spectacular. Episode.
We're done with Arya until the finale.
It's interesting. I think we might get something with Arya in the finale. I think we might get something with Arya. The actress Maisie Williams, I read, said something like to the effect of Arya's story this season, you know, won't be fully fleshed out till like all 10 episodes are out or something. Something
Hmm.
to that effect. Like you have to watch all 10 episodes to like get, the resolution there.
So yeah,
So
she seems to get good moments in the finales.
yeah, she does. So I'm think there'll definitely be an Arya bit in the season 10 episode.
Do you think we'll
Uh,
get something before? Do you think we're due for her next week or the week after? Or do you
it's
think it's just we're not going to see her until the finale?
it's possible. It's possible. I'm not gonna rule it out. We might get something of her next episode. And I think the big shocking moment, the big shocker of the season will be with the High Sparrow, um, storyline. I think they might even publicly execute Cersei, and that would be like, oh my god. If they did that, that would cause all those reactions. And I could totally see that happening now.
Yeah.
And, and I think that's going to be like the big episode 9 ender right there. I could be totally wrong on that, but it's not spoilers because I don't know anything. If that happens, don't blame me.
It's going to be civil war. Tommen's going to set up his knights against the Faith Militant.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be
Iron Man's going to pick one side. Captain America is going to pick the other.
right. Freaking.
So that pretty much covers what we got going on in this episode and kind of what we think what's coming up for the next couple episodes. Only 3 left, so I mean that's only one Lord of the Rings movie left.
Yeah, I know,
as far as length. So
so
if you think about it, think about last season. Last season, episode 8 was the Mountain and the Viper. Episode 9 was the Battle at the Wall. And episode 10 was kind of just the resolution. That seems to be every episode 10 seems to be like a resolution episode. It's like, oh, this is kind of what's happening and setting up what's going to happen next season.
The big event seems to happen in episode 9, and then episode 10 is the resolution, the setup for the next season.
Episode 10 seems to also have the big, like, magical moments, if there is one.
If
like,
there's,
like, that's when you'll see, like, the army of the White Walkers or the dragons being born or something like that.
Or the forest, or, like, the nymphs or whatever the heck those things are in the forest.
Yeah, the children of the forest.
The children of the forest, they're ancient. They're, like, very old. And I'm interested in going back there and getting more of that, which I know that's not going to happen this season, but
they confirm they're not in this season, but I think it would be kind of cool that they easily could have filmed like a really quick scene just for the finale or something, and then that wouldn't have required them to be back on set for full active filming, it would be awesome if they did that as like a trick to us. So like nobody's expecting it, and then all of a sudden, oh my god, there's Bran, there's Hodor. I thought they weren't in this season. And
yeah, right. That'd be cool if it ended on Bran and Hodor.
Yeah,
really cool. But then again, last season ended on Bran and Hodor. So,
well, what would be awesome is in the last season, Bran had the moment where he asked the guy in the tree if he'd ever walk again, and the guy said no, but you'll fly. And that guy's connected to the crows, and it's somehow connected to like Bran's like warging ability. So what would be awesome is if something was happening, it like showed a series of events of things happening with kind of like the other Stark kids, with Jon Snow and Sansa, and kind of what was happening with them. And then you saw like that there was like a crow watching them or something. And then it cut to like Bran, like in the tree or something,
Warging,
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Something like that would be awesome. And it could just be like just at the very end of the episode kind of thing,
Definitely.
I'd love it if they had something like that. But who knows? I mean, we're like creating our own story here.
Yeah, I know.
We're writing our Game of Thrones fan fiction.
And now this is going to happen. And then Cersei, and then and then Daenerys is gonna come to King's Landing with her dragons and take over the throne.
Man, episode 10 is going to be crazy.
I know, right?
Non-stop.
Non-stop action. And then Thanos will come.
Yeah.
That'll be the end of the episode when they all like goes to attack Thanos.
Yeah, he like, holds up his Infinity Gauntlet and and then a 747 like crashes over the island and do you think we'll get any more flashbacks? Because this season had its first flashback with Cersei as a kid, and we kind of had heard that they had been casting for something like flashbacks before. There were some news stories we put up about that, I believe.
I don't think so. I think the flashback, because Game of Thrones doesn't really use flashbacks as a device, and I think the only reason there was a flashback in this season was to kind of foreshadow what's happening to Cersei in this season. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, but at the same time, they could also bookend the season between those.
They could do another flashback with Cersei to bookend the season, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really what the flashback was about. Because, yeah, that was the first time the series had ever done a flashback. It's never been big on flashbacks. Because, well, think about it. In, like, a series like Game of Thrones where you're dealing with, like, hundreds of different, all these different players and stuff, you're going to do flashbacks? Are you going to do flashbacks? Would that work? You know? It's just too much.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't really do flashbacks. They didn't even have in the books. There was no flashback because the books, it's always like they have what they call perspective chapters in the book. So like the chapter names will be like Arya 23 or something, and that would be like the 23rd chapter with Arya, and then it kind of shows it from her perspective. You know, like you get an insight into her, the way she's thinking about things, and there are different perspective characters. Ironically, the next book that's coming out has a perspective chapter for Selmy Barristan, who died in the show. So I think that's his first perspective chapter, and he's already dead on the show. So
he's already dead.
Yeah, so they, you know, it diverges a bit from the book. It's getting further and further away from the book now, material-wise. It's interesting seeing how people react to that, because you get some people, in the case of like last week's rape, there's a lot of people that are using that as like their reasoning for why, you know, the rape was gratuitous because it didn't happen in the book, even though it did, just not to Sansa. And they talk about like the changes of the book, and that's why it's bad, and blah blah blah.
I heard a lot of things like, oh, it's bad because in the books it didn't happen to Sansa. It's like, it not happening to Sansa doesn't make it better.
Yeah.
I don't get that argument. It's like,
yeah, some other poor girl got raped. That's fine. Yeah.
She was just random. I wasn't interested in her, so it's cool she gets raped. I mean, what? I mean, how is that even an argument? It's like, if the rape is bad, it's bad no matter who it happens to. Let's not.
Yeah, let's not play favorites here.
Let's not play favorites. And I think, you know, having it happen to Sansa makes it more powerful anyway, because it is a character that you're invested in, that you care about. And
also, it's like I put in the article I wrote, the one thing that I really felt about is I think that a lot of what's colored the kind of hatred of that event is that everyone got obsessed with this idea of like dark Sansa in like last season because she showed up with dyed hair and like a black dress.
right.
And like dressing up doesn't mean that you're like suddenly a player.
Well,
you know, like her showing up with dark hair and a dress doesn't mean she's suddenly a player.
I've always wanted to see Sansa get stronger though.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, try to like fight back against what's been happening to her, or at least get smarter about, you know.
I think this might give her the impetus to actually do that.
Right. And
I want to see her do it not like as Littlefinger's lapdog either, you know, like
right.
I'd
Exactly.
like to see her plot against Littlefinger, you know?
I want to see her use her own wits, use her own will, and find the courage strength to get herself out of this situation, these situations, and to come into her own as a strong-willed, woman who, and I've been hoping for, rather than just being a victim constantly throughout the whole series, because that's the I'm not satisfied with her character arc insofar as she is still the victim. She's still constantly the victim, and hopefully she's a lot stronger now. And hopefully she stops playing.
She grabbed some kind of a tool, like a knife or something.
Yep, I saw that.
When Ramsay was taking her out.
Do something this episode with it. Didn't.
Not this episode, but it also wasn't discovered by him. So it's a bit of a Chekhov's gun as well.
It is, because obviously, she's going to use it. She's planning something. So I think we've already saw the hint that this experience has made her stronger.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see where that happens, because I've been kind of like a Sansa hater, I guess. It's not that I hate her so much, it's just I always felt like she's kind of lightly responsible for a lot of the bad stuff that ended up happening to her family. And I feel like she's never really taken responsibility or ownership for that. She's just kind of like continued to kind of go, why me?
Right.
And whereas Arya's taken responsibility to taking action against it. She's trying to become a faceless man now. She's killed people. She's harming herself. She's doing these things.
Arya a lot more, because she has responded to these, to what's happened to her in a way to where she is going to be a strong, she's going to fight back. She is going to be a strong person, and she is not going to let herself become a victim or be a victim.
There's an interesting parallel you can draw between Arya and Sansa, with them both encountering Brienne and rejecting Brienne, but why? Like, with Sansa, she rejected Brienne because she wanted to stick with Littlefinger, where Arya rejected Brienne and went completely on her own. She carved out her own path, she didn't go and oh, I'm going with the Hound instead. No, she just watched the Hound die and then took off on her own, to first unknown, basically, and forged her own path. And that was kind of the big difference, I feel, between those two characters, is one of them has taken action and the other one has kind of played second fiddle to somebody else, and so I'd love to see Sansa actually become a strong character. And by that, I don't mean suddenly wear a black dress with dark hair. I mean, actually do something of her own will, not like Littlefinger's plan, her plan,
Her plan, Exactly. And I think it's about time we saw Sansa do that. And I think we are going to get that this season. And I think that is the positive thing to come out of that horrible, horrible scene. Or so many. I mean, because I trust Game of Thrones. I trust the writers. They're not going to do anything like that just for pure shock value, They're not going to have her raped and, just to be just to troll people.
Yeah.
And I think it was a mistake to end that episode on that note, because
it makes it look like it's for shock value.
Yeah, it makes it look like it's for shock value. It was it makes it look like that was the old, moment of the episode. And it was I just did. So I didn't think that was a good choice to end it on that note. But I think that's where most of the controversy comes from with that, is because they did choose to end it there. So a lot of people didn't get, the full, didn't get the consequences of that, or to see where that was going story-wise. They just got rape and then nothing else.
Yeah.
So knee-jerk reactions.
I'm wondering what reactions are going to be like with this episode, this week coming into the picture, and if people are going to see it the way I saw it, in that they're directly showing that Sons is stronger than Theon through this episode. That, like, in the events, like, if that's going to be picked up on by other people, or if I'm in kind of the minority that was okay with the rape in the episode in the first place, you know?
Right. Exactly. I mean, I was kind of surprised that there was like as much anger and outcry over it as there was. That it was, because I did not see it as, as this horrible, mean-spirited thing that the writers were doing to people. I didn't think they were depicting it in some kind of, gratuitous or favorable way, or for shock value or anything like that. I saw it for what I believe it is, which was a story tool that made total sense in the context of what was happening, that was used to push Sansa's character arc, forward.
I'm gonna right now. I read an article, and since I can't direct people to my article right now because the site's down, I'm gonna try to get people to check out this. There's a website called rawstory.com. There's an article written by Amanda Mercode, I believe is her name. I might be butchering that pronunciation. It was a very good article I read called "All," in parentheses, hopefully, of the bad arguments about rape on Game of Thrones debunked. And what's interesting is she's doing it kind of from a feminist perspective. And so she's talking about how Game of Thrones as a series is about averting expectations of saying, like, oh, she'll be saved at the last minute, those kind of things, and how it's going against that, and how this rape is like a real thing. So it's a really interesting read. I recommend people check it out. Rawstory.com. The article is called "All," hopefully, of the bad arguments about rape on Game of Thrones debunked. So I'm going to put that up as a recommendation for anybody interested in kind of looking into kind of what's going on with the rape controversy right now. I think that pretty much brings us to an end. So we'll have more to talk about next week when we talk about episode 8. Thank you, everybody, for watching. You can check us out on tventhusiast.com if it is up at the time you are watching this. So I am the editor-in-chief of that site, Tyson, and joining me today was Will, who is our news director. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Bye.
Bye.